storage, a lot of space it's not taken. Look at.
Hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on MisplacedStraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today has been on the site a few times. We've talked about his solo work. We've even talked about his favorite Christmas songs. But we've never actually talked about his day job in the legendary band Stryper. That band releases their 14th studio album called The Final Battle on October 21st. Please welcome Michael Sweet. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, how are you? Good to be talking with you again.
Oh, my pleasure. And before anything, the past year or so, it's been a rough go health-wise for the band. How's your eye issue, and how's Oz doing?
Oz is doing great. Seems to be right back on track. Mm-hmm. I just got back from the eye doctor literally an hour and a half ago, and my eye's doing really great at the moment. So far, things are looking up.
That's always a good thing.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have your health, it obviously can keep you from doing what you want or need to do, and we're doing okay at the moment. So
good. So now this new record, The Final Battle. Now, whenever a legacy band like Stryper puts out a record with the word final or last in the title, questions come up. Just the title, or is there anything we could read into it?
Well, I mean, my goal was to, speak of, or at least with the imagery, portray the Battle of Armageddon. And that was the whole point. And that, in my eyes and mind, is the final battle, and will be the final battle, if you believe in the Bible and what the book of Revelation says. So that's what I was going for with the title. Now, as I thought more and more about it, I realized, oh boy, some people will think that this is our final album. But then as I began to think about that, I thought, well, it could be. Mm-hmm. For that, if you really want to get down to it, for that matter, it could be anybody's final album. Because, we're not promised tomorrow. No man is promised tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow will bring for any one of us. So that being said, especially with our health concerns and things going on, I thought, well, it could be our final battle, our final album. I hope not. I'm not saying that it is, but, it certainly always could be. And I think it's important for us to never take that for granted and always keep that in mind when we're going in to make a new album.
Definitely. And this record, it really continues the streak you guys have been on since 2013's No More Hell to Pay. And this record, it has the heaviness of those last few records, but I think in a track like Same Old Story, I also hear the melodic stuff that was found in the earlier records. And it really makes for an album that combines kind of the best of Stryper's history into one modern-sounding record. When you're writing a new Stryper album, do you begin with a sonic theme or a sound that you want, or is it just wherever your head's at the time?
See, that's the interesting part. It is wherever my head's at the time. And, this time around, my head was coming out of surgery. And everybody already knows, I assume, that, the story behind that. I literally came home from Florida. I was supposed to start writing the album, and I had to go into emergency surgery for a retinal detachment. And that the album, everything got postponed. And I started thinking that it was going to basically not only get delayed, but maybe get canceled. Because I thought, how is this going to happen? I got to write the album. And I was in surgery, so once I was able to sit up again after 2 weeks of laying face down, I wrote the album. And then after I finished the album, my retina detached again. And it was a real white-knuckle ride for me. I was thinking, Lord God, how is this going to happen? Because we were supposed to go in and start recording a few weeks after that. So I went and had my second surgery, and after 2 weeks again of sitting face down, we started recording to the day. And it just worked out, man. Everything worked out perfectly according to the schedule. And I think going through what I went through made for a better writing session, because I was thinking more about life. I was thinking more about my situation. I was thinking more about longevity and the future. And I think it helped me to draw deep within the well, to pull out of myself some little extra things that might not have been pulled out before.
And it's funny hearing you say that, because one of the things, like listening to the song Heart and Soul, the lyrics sort of feel like looking back a little bit. And Stryper, you guys aren't a band that puts out a live record after every tour or a ton of compilation stuff. So do you ever take a minute to appreciate what this band has accomplished over nearly 40 years? Or does it take something like what you went through to kind of almost force you to look back?
I'll be honest with that question in that response. No, we don't, unfortunately, because it's such a blur. We're always go, 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 go. You know, did you do this? Did you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then all of a sudden a year is gone. And then we're right into the next year, and the calendar is booked. I look at the calendar and I start to have a panic attack because it's just filled. And I think, well, am I going to have any time to go lay on a beach with my wife and my dog? And no, there is no time to do that. So I think it's important to, cherish and admire the moment and the past and what we've accomplished over the last almost 40 years. But we don't, sadly, take the time to do that very often. We don't.
And this record, The Final Battle, it's the second record that Perry Richardson has played on, the third since he joined the band. And for a band that had a steady lineup for decades, I mean, again, kind of looking at that sort of history and then moving forward, what is it that Perry brings to the band, both studio and live, that sort of re-energized you guys and keeps you going?
Well, I mean, I think Perry, obviously, with the recordings, brings a real solid foundation. You know, not that we didn't have that before, but he just kind of turns it up a notch and really lays down a super solid foundation. And then obviously Perry's a great singer. He brings that to the table. Stryper's always been known for our background vocals, so that's nothing new. But, having Perry obviously really kind of puts the icing on the cake, so to speak. Live, we've always been a very energetic band. The problem with Oz and I lately is we have to be very cautious. When Oz starts to move too much, he starts to get dizzy. When I start to move too much, I start to get dizzy. I was just talking about this in an interview. When I turn my head to the right really fast on stage and I turn my head to the left, I see two guitar necks for about 3 or 4 seconds. And it's because of my vision and my retina. And it's very, very odd. And I've explained this to my doctor, and he says it is a head scratcher. It's very strange. But this is what I'm faced with. And so for that matter, we can't move as much. So I know Perry might be moving a little bit more to make up for our lack of energy on stage. But point being, Perry's brought a lot to the table. He's a team player, great guy, super talented guy, and we really appreciate and love having him in this band.
And speaking of playing live, you guys had to cancel a bunch of shows in September. You were able to get back to playing this month. You have the 2 nights at the Whiskey coming up in early November. The pandemic just really turned the touring business completely on its head. What's it like for a band like you guys now trying to get out there to promote this record as we begin to come out of all of this?
Oh, gosh. Well, we've been trying really hard to come out of the pandemic and figure out where to go from there. Obviously, like every other band in the world, pretty much, for the most part, we had quite a bit of downtime and being locked in our houses and not able to tour. And still, it's a problem for bands. You go out and tour, one guy gets COVID, the tour shuts down. And that's just the way it is. I personally think that the music industry was hit the hardest, even more than the restaurant industry. That's my opinion. People could argue with me if they want. That's fine. But, we're still feeling the effects of that, the music industry. It's very tough. But the Stryper, where there's a will, there's a way. We always find a way around obstacles. We did during the pandemic. We said, well, you know what? We can't go play live, then we'll go in the studio and play live. And we did. We made a bunch of live performances live at Spirit House. And they were super successful. And we did some recordings. You know, we released a lot of new merchandise. We found a way to survive during that 1.5 year period, almost 2 year period, despite, you know, all the odds stacked against us. Our attitude is like, yeah, so what? You're not going to stop us. It's not going to happen.
Well, and that's fine. You guys are road warriors. You're always out there touring. Usually you're headlining your own shows. Do you guys ever get offers to go out with other bands on package tours, or did you prefer doing your own thing?
We like doing our own thing, but we also would love to go out on package tours. We rarely, actually probably never get offers from other bands. And, you know, I always scratch my head with that and think, why? I'm sure a lot of other people could answer that for me and say, well, it's this, 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 and that. But it still doesn't make any sense to me. You know, if many bands from our genre are out there opening for Judas Priest and Scorpions and on and on and on, and for some reason it's just impossible for us to get arrested, you know. When it comes to that, and I guess I only assume it's a Christian tag. Maybe other people fear that. Maybe other people think management thinks that it's going to hurt their band, and which is so silly because Stryper draws tickets, and we have a name. People know who we are, and we put on a show. If you come to a Stryper show, it's a rock show. It's not a church service. So I don't understand why we don't get more offers to open for bands. I really don't, but we would love to. It would be amazing with the right band.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it out there now. My vote for the 2023 co-headlining theater tour, Stryper, Queensryche. I know you and Todd are good friends, so we got to make that happen.
I would think that would be fairly easy to make happen. I think we could make that happen. The difficult one would be like a tour consisting of Stryper, Judas Priest, and pick another band. You know what I mean? That would be the difficult one to make happen. But gosh, there's no reason why it shouldn't. It would be amazing.
And one thing too, talk about a Stryper show, and I point this out with a lot of bands when I see it happen, because I think it's a great thing that not a whole lot of bands who've been around for a long time do. And that's when you go to a Stryper show, you're going to get the classics. They're all going to be there. But you guys don't shy away from the last 2 or 3 records. Now, where so many bands put a record out, they tour it, and then they pretend it never exists, and they go back to playing the same set with 1 or 2 songs. You guys fold in those songs over the last 3 or 4 records and really give the audience a full history of Stryper live.
Well, it's important, and the reason why it's important is because I believe we're releasing some of our best music right now. And we have been for the last 10 years. And, you know, when you, not to downplay a song like, say, To Hell with the Devil. That's probably one of the most popular Stryper songs, classic songs. But when we do To Hell with the Devil and then we do Yahweh live, or vice versa, we do Yahweh then To Hell with the Devil, To Hell with the Devil almost fails in comparison. Because Yahweh is such a great song. And so powerful. And it's so epic and tells such an incredibly powerful story. And then, but fans often don't give it the time of day because it's a new song. And it doesn't have the memories or the nostalgia that goes along with To Hell with the Devil.
Yeah, but it's, like you said, I think a lot of bands that are putting out records, you guys are putting out the best music of your career now. Not every band could say that. So, for me anyway, going to a show, I love hearing you guys play the newer stuff as well. So I just think it's pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. And I'm sure a lot of fans might agree with you. But I think there unfortunately are, the majority probably would not. Or they might even say, I haven't even heard the new songs.
Right.
You know, I'm only familiar with the old songs. And that's all the more the point that I'm making. It's kind of sad. But I think starting with To Hell with the Devil and going all the way up to the final battle, you could go through all those albums and pick out probably 10 songs easily that are as good or better than 10 classics. Again, my opinion, people would fight me to the death on that, but that's what I feel and believe.
And kind of talking about those classics, looking back in history a bit, Stryper began, Southern California clubs in the early 80s, and you guys were sort of the second wave, after the Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Quiet Riot era.
Yep.
And so much has been covered recently on the Randy and Eddie Van Halen rivalry. Was there a band during your era when you were coming up that you made sure you always caught live, or a guitarist that pushed you to be even better, just, kind of that rivalry in the clubs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't even use the word rivalry, but a band that comes to mind instantaneously is Yesterday and Today.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go and see them when I was a kid, and I'd sneak into the clubs and lie about my age because I wasn't supposed to be in the club seeing them. And I'd get in because I always looked a little older than I was, and they'd ask me my age, and I'd say I'm 18, and I'd get in, and I was really only 15. And I would see Yesterday and Today, and it always blew my mind. Huge influence on us. I feel one of the most underrated bands of all time. If I had to pick a fault with them, I might say it's some of the production over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of the production could have been better, and maybe it could have had a few better songs here or there. But in terms of just downright talent, pound for pound, boy, you couldn't find a more killer band. And every member was outstanding. And they made me want to be a better musician, and they made us want to be a better band. So I would pick them. Of course, Van Halen inspired us all. We used to play with Rat. Rat was always an inspiration, even before they had Blotzer and DeMartini and Grossier, any of those guys. It's when they had Crosby and Piercy, of course, but then they had different guys in the band.
Yeah,
I played with Rat when they had Jake E. Lee in the band.
Oh wow!
And that was inspirational to see. So yeah, just to have lived that scene and been a part of that scene, I feel very blessed. I do wish we had come out a little earlier. We came out in '84 with our first album. I think if we had come out with our first album in '81, '82, we'd be a bigger name and a bigger band right now. That's my opinion.
Well, it's funny because, along those lines, and you mentioned Judas Priest earlier, and you and I talked about this a little bit in a previous interview, but, now Priest is finally going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks. And now, Stryper, you guys are a groundbreaking band. I mean, no other artist, whether they have that Christian label on them or not, has really sustained, just the mainstream crossover success that you guys have. And to me, that's what makes a Hall of Fame band, is somebody who came out and did something different that wasn't done before and excelled at it. And I think that's what you guys did for all of these years, kind of doing it on your own terms. And now that Priest is finally going in, maybe it opens it up a little bit more for hard rock and metal bands. Who knows? But, again, we talked a little bit about looking back on your career, ever getting a chance to do that. Does it ever cross your mind that, Stryper probably deserves at least consideration for a place in something like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, it does cross my mind, but whenever it does, it always feels a little, self-centered and, I don't know. It makes me feel a little off, like, maybe I shouldn't be thinking that. Egotistical, big-headed, whatever catchphrase you want to put to that. It makes me feel like, who are we to think that way? Because there's so many other great bands. But at the same time, there is something to be said for the longevity. There is something to be said for how many albums we put out, and the fact that I really think a lot of people would agree that we're putting out our best lately in recent years. So, and beating the odds. we're the band that many people have laughed at and mocked and said, ha ha, those guys will never do that. And we've done it. So we've kind of beaten the odds and won many battles. And I think for that reason alone, maybe, justifiably so, but I doubt it'll ever happen, at least while I'm alive on Earth.
Well, your fans can always push for it, like the Priest fans did for all these years. So
that'd be amazing to see. I tell you, if that day ever came, I think you'd have half of the world partying about it, and half of the world, probably protesting. In addition
to the prolific run Stryper's been on, you've had a couple of great projects. But one of the best surprises of this year for me was the iconic record with yourself, Nathan James, Joel Hoekstra, Marco Mendoza, and Tommy Aldridge. It's easily one of the best records of the year. I got to talk with Nathan when the record came out. Any chance of a follow-up to that in the future?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know that the label's already discussing that, and I know they're going to want that. I even heard rumors that they may want us to start like early next year. So soon, a few months. I don't know how realistic that is according to everyone's scheduling, but there will definitely be a follow-up. And I didn't think there'd be a third Sweet and Lynch album, but there is. That's done. I've got to sing a few more vocals and then turn it in, and that'll be coming out next year. And that's going to be a surprise album. I think people are going to be surprised because it's very different from the first two.
Interesting.
In a good way.
Yeah. What about Sunbomb with Tracy Guns?
Good question. I would assume and guess yes that there will be, but I don't know. Sadly, a lot of these decisions made are based on finances. Yeah. So how much money was put into the project and how much money was made versus lost. And if more money was lost, there most likely won't be a follow-up. So it is a business at the end of the day, and the label has that right to make that decision. With the Sunbomb album, I really don't know. I don't know if money was lost or made, but I would assume that it seemed to get a fairly good response. So I would assume that most people would want to hear another album.
Oh, definitely.
But I don't know.
And, we mentioned a couple of Stryper shows coming up and the 2 nights at the Whiskey the beginning of November. Anything else on the calendar? Will you be doing your annual Christmas show this year?
I am. I'm doing the annual Christmas show, and that is on the 25th of November, the day after Thanksgiving. That was the only time they had available, and I'm finding out that that's a bad time for a lot of people. Right after Thanksgiving, because you're busy. You're just eating turkey sandwiches and watching TV the day after Black Friday, So that's what I'm playing. But a lot more going on. We've got the Sweet Lynch album I'm finishing up. I started on a new album with Alessandro. It's not. I don't want to call it a solo album. It's a Sweet Del Vecchio album. It's going to be cool, a little bit more in line with like AOR rock, like Boston meets Toto meets Journey.
Oh, great.
And then I've got an inspirational solo album that's been done for a year. That will come out next year sometime. And then I've already got all the music done for a new hard rock metal Michael Sweet solo album.
Fantastic. We look forward to all those projects.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I start to think about it, and I think, what am I doing? Have I lost my mind? I think I have.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Michael Sweet. The new Stryper record, it's called The Final Battle, out everywhere on October 21st. Michael, as always, thank you so much for taking some time. Best of luck with this record, and we will catch you on the road soon.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you taking the time and all the support, and for you waving that Stryper flag. It means the world to us. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.